All right, welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff. You are here on the Hodl Review early Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Well, at least it's 8 a.m. someplace. Anyhow, it's great to be on with you guys tonight on kind of on the back of what we just did the other night, Thursday night, the stream that we had with Congressman Warren Davidson talking about the Token Taxonomy Act, really digging in, getting things from his perspective, getting a bird's eye view, actually not a bird's eye view, but an on the ground view of how all the inner workings over in Congress actually work together. And that was absolutely outstanding. Today, we want to get more into talking about things that are related to XRP, things that are related to digital assets. We're going to talk a little bit. There was this article that came up, and there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of talk about Bitcoin having a massive carbon footprint. And in fact, we saw what Elon Musk had said and how the media, the FUD media, decided to twist the entire narrative, twist the logic, and come up with their own agenda, with their own narrative, which was completely opposite of actually what happened, or completely wrong. Just to, you get it. So, one of the things that we look at a lot, we try to really interpret, how does the FUD media impact things that are happening on the ground? And there is a lot of FUD media that goes on, and it does have a major impact on everything. So whether it's Bitcoin, XRP, or what have you, the media could be very, detrimental. One of the other areas that the media has really been focused on lately, and we see this little bit of a push on Facebook, moving DIEM back to the US. So they were going for the Swiss licensing. They decided to drop that, come back to the US, launch their stablecoin in the US. So we're going to get into that. I do want to talk about Fiat. There was this great article that popped up. Is Fiat actually carbon neutral? There's a lot of talk about Bitcoin and the carbon footprint that Bitcoin has, but what about Fiat? So all these individuals out there, they keep talking their big talk about the carbon footprint. Not one person has brought up the impact of Fiat on the environment. And so we need to get into that. There was a great article, and there's two articles really comparing. And as Elon Musk has been in the media supposedly anti-Bitcoin, which is not true, Michael Saylor has been adding to his bag. So Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy adding more Bitcoin to the bags, looking for the long term. And then we do want to get into, again, this whole Facebook DIEM Silvergate relationship, because there is going to be an organization that does have the exclusive distribution rights of DIEM. And that's where everything is going to stem from. So we want to get into that. Plus, as we see a scale back, at least in the media, a scale back of what's happening in the digital asset space, there's been talk that institutions are pulling money. And again, that is FUD spread in the Main Street media. And in fact, we're going to look at another article with regarding Steve Cohen and Point 72 that is showing that institutions are actually buying further into the digital asset space, not less. Obviously, a lot going on. Also, just in general, market reaction. Coinbase, I do want to get into that a little bit. Also, so there was actually another article I think that's important to look at. Not Coinbase, I meant Binance. Binance being investigated by the IRS. But the important and the more interesting component of their investigation by the IRS, it comes on the heels, obviously, Coinbase now public. Brian Brooks, who is a Republican appointee by Trump, to the OCC, is now CEO of Binance US. All of a sudden, the IRS is investigating Binance. So we need to look at that a little bit, see what's going on. And Coinbase Q1 profits have tripled. So that's just just touching a little bit on some of the things that we want to get into today. But I'm thinking that the first best place to start this morning is going to be looking over here at CoinGecko, because over the past days we've seen a tremendous amount of red in the space. Just a tremendous amount. And so we want to see if we're actually picking up. Before we do that, just want to shout out, Van Life Biker, first in the stream today. What's going on? And I like this one right here. This is a great comment. Nicholas Aguirre, he's saying that brewing my coffee, took the dog out for a long early morning walk, and now I have time to spare to watch OTC. Not a bad start of the day. Actually, a great start of the day. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you go grab your coffee. Today, again, it's another Segfredo day. This is the Segfredo Espresso. So let's just take a minute here. That's really good. Oh, man. What's great about espresso, that you get like this, the rich flavors. Sometimes you get a little bit of a bitter, bitterness to it. But if it's quality, it's just filled with that richness. It's really, really good. You can have other espressos. I was at a conference this past week, and they had a coffee shop in the conference area. And so I went to get an espresso there, and it was the worst espresso. Sometimes you get that espresso, kind of has like a limey flavor to, or lemony flavor, but it's not like a good rich bitter. Like bitter chocolate kind of has that. It's more of a just like lemon seed bitter, like you bit into a lemon, not even like lemon bitter. It's like, and it just doesn't belong in coffee. And I just don't know how people, places get away with serving such garbage. So Sir John is here. Great to see you here with Sir John. So let's see what we've got for you guys. It's good to talk about coffee and blockchain and crypto. And there's really a point to all of it, because we're going to get into smart contracts today. And when we get into smart contracts, what can't be put onto smart contracts, or what will be put onto smart contracts? And that's something that I definitely want to talk about, because it becomes, very poignant. But before we do that, I just got to give a quick shout out to Sir John.
Wie einst Lily Marlin. Wie einst Lily Marlin.
Hey, what is up? What is going on? So, hey, if you guys can do a favor, just tweet this out. I put the stream up late. I didn't get it up until it was like 10 to 8. Normally, if I get that pre 7:30, I get it up before 7:30, like by 7:20, then YouTube picks it up and pushes it out, lets everybody know early that we got the stream going. But if you guys can do a favor, just tweet it out. That'd be great. So Texas XRP Coffee Time with Jeff. I think we're going to rename the morning show and just talk about coffee from now on. Sometimes it could be a little bit, I don't know. Anyhow, so Matt tuning in from Australia. Hey, Matt, I just found out, I didn't even realize, I was reading an article today, and there are a couple interesting things from a geopolitical perspective, over in Australia. But one of them, I didn't realize that you guys are still under an intense lockdown to the fact that you guys can't leave. You guys can't leave Australia. And I was shocked to hear that and read that you guys are stuck over in Australia. Man, that's I feel bad. Feel really bad about that. You guys are stuck. So, all right, where are we here? I'm trying to look here. Oh, here's a question. DB Borman, I bought XRP back in 18 on the original Binance. I transferred it to Coinbase this year. Will I be eligible for Flare Spark? So the question is, when did you transfer? Where were you holding it? So I believe Binance was participating in Spark, or in the Flare Spark token. So as long as you had it on a participating exchange. Doesn't necessarily have to be Coinbase, but if you're on a participating exchange by the snapshot, which was December 12th. So if you had it somewhere on that exchange, December 12th, then you should be eligible. I don't know if it was on Binance US. I believe that they were, you would be eligible on Binance US. There was a whole list of exchanges. Now, if you had it on your ledger in between, so you bought it on in 2018 on the original Binance, if you moved it to Binance US, then you just have to look. I can't remember if I believe Binance US was one. Someone in the chat probably knows. So if you guys want to throw that out there. And so, yeah, you know, is Binance or Binance US, were they on the snapshot back on December 12th to allow for that, for the snapshot? Now, if you're on Coinbase, then yes, 100% for sure. Now, the other question would be where you are in the US. So if you're in New York, then I believe that Coinbase had made an announcement that if you're in New York using Coinbase, that you would not be eligible for the snapshot for the Spark drop. So those are some of the some of the things. But if someone can look it up real quick and just check it out, Binance US, to see what's going on. So that would be great. Let me see here. All right. So, you know what else I need to look into here? My I fixed the whole Zoom thing. Not sure. I can't even. Oh, here it is. Wonder if I can open this. Let me see if I can open this up here without causing any issue. Probably not. All right. There it is. Nope. Okay, great. So it's not going to work. Of course. Nope. All right, it wants to crash it. So anyhow, whatever. We'll have to deal with it. All right, let me add this up here. Binance US, good to go, according to David R. That's nice. Michael says, I still don't see my Spark on Binance, but I do on Bitrue. Bitrue is a unique situation, mainly because Bitrue came out and started issuing the Flare IOUs. So I think that's completely different. So it's not real Spark token. They issue as a Flare IOU, which is different. And you can also see the valuation of the IOU, which nobody knows at this point. And I believe when those first Spark tokens start to drop, those first tokens will come at zero value. That is what was said before, but it's still, no one knows what's going to happen. And we're coming up on the time frame that they were supposed to drop, which should be like June or July of this year. And so hopefully we'll see, exactly what's going to be happening here in the near future with Spark. Now, when we get into it, I think this is so critical, because when we look at game-changing technologies, we can look at the whole space, right, as a game changer. Cryptocurrency in general could be a game-changing technology. However, Flare, and if you look at, let's take a step back from Flare, look at Ethereum. So regardless of what your opinion is on investing in Ethereum, whether you invest in Ethereum, don't invest in Ethereum, if you were able to get Ethereum in the hundreds versus in the thousands, that's awesome. Now, if you, but you look at the technology, you have the ERC20 tokens built on Ethereum, but the smart contract idea behind Ethereum, which goes into Main Street business. Now, I've talked about this, many times before, how critical smart contracts are to business. Smart contracts in the finance space are very, very important. If you can automate processes, and you can have things happen in reaction to an event, a trigger event, and it's automated, and you take out the human error element, or you just take out the human element altogether, then things can be cross-referenced, checked, and reacted on automatically. So the smart contract space, as great as DeFi is great. You add the smart contract component to it, and it's a game changer. So that's where Ethereum has really a leg up on many of the other technologies out there, mainly because it becomes a real world technology that's needed. Now, Ethereum has a lot of issues right now because one of the big issues that we see, obviously, are the gas fees. And the gas fees, the transaction costs working with Ethereum are astronomical right now. So even if you have the ERC20 tokens, we can see exactly what's going on. When we try to move money, and I use that one example, I was trying to go in and buy, I forgot at this point what asset it was. But I said, I'm going to move $100. I need to go through and see what these gas fees are going to be like. Let me move 100 USD. I put it into USDC, put it over to MetaMask. I said, I'm going to go to MetaMask. I'm going to go through Uniswap. I'm going to turn it into USDT. And then from USDT, I want to keep kind of progressing through the process. So the fees were killer, just getting, and going through, if you go to Coinbase Pro versus Coinbase fees are astronomical when you go to do a transaction or when you pull it off. So it took me a few transactions on Coinbase and I'm like, what am I doing? Let me go to Coinbase Pro. And it was interesting. I moved $100 on Coinbase. It cost me 13 and change. It's called $14. It cost me $14 to move to MetaMask. Then I bought over on Coinbase Pro, and transaction costs were like $5, and I moved $1,000 off of Coinbase Pro. So look at the difference in cost. So transaction costs. Now, what's interesting, when you have these gas costs like this, these transaction costs, it makes it cost prohibitive to work with the technology. So I move it over to MetaMask. I'm on MetaMask. It cost me $13, $14. And so let's say now I'm at, here goes the math. So I'm down in the 70s at this point. So I'm at like 70, so let's call it, $75. Let's just round it out. It wasn't 20, sorry, $85. Because the next thing to happen brought me down, so I was already 25 in the hole. So I go through the transaction. Now I want to convert and move it over to USDT. This is where the other $10 plus. So I end up, I do this transaction, and it was more than $10, but it failed, and I still got charged the gas fees. So by that time, I've got $100. I'm down to $75. I've got $25 in cost, and I'm still stuck in my USDC over on MetaMask, and I'm down to $75. And then I want to take the last remaining 75 and move it off. But now I'm going to move Ethereum over to pay for the gas costs. And the next transaction of moving USDC, I said, let me move it back to Coinbase. It would have cost me $44 to move 75 back to Coinbase. So I said, you know what? I'm done. And I left the 75 over there, and I moved on with my life. I said, okay, that's not going to work. Now, how do we use, effectively and efficiently move, from exchange to exchange when gas costs are prohibitive like that? And sometimes maybe you're not paying attention, and you're going through the transactions and you start analyzing, like, holy cow, it cost me, X amount, to do that. So those types of fees are ridiculous. But the technology, the core concept of the technology and the smart contracts is everything. I mean, that is the game changer. So why is Ethereum currently being adopted at a business level? And why are, so many of these institutions, looking at Ethereum as the game changer? So, so here we have, okay, Ethereum game changer. There's no real competition in the space at this point. So D is like, why is it doing so well? But that's why, because Ethereum is the basis for everything. Look at all of the ERC20 tokens that are running off of the Ethereum Foundation or the Ethereum network. So that's what everybody's looking at, is that Ethereum has first mover advantage and the recognition. And that's all people are looking at, is that recognition and the identification that Ethereum is the best. Now we take a step to Flare, and what Flare is doing is drastically different and better, because now we have Flare, which is incorporating, you know, multiple facets of the infrastructure of this, you know, the dynamic of the blockchain cryptocurrency infrastructure. So what do they start with? They say, okay, you know, it's going to be agnostic. It's going to work with Ethereum. It's going to work with the XRP ledger. And oh, by the way, you know, we're going to incorporate some of these key assets. You know, what are some of the key assets? XRP, Litecoin, even Dogecoin. Incorporating, they'll branch off, they'll add Bitcoin, they'll add, you know, XLM, they'll go, and they'll keep expanding and expanding, you know. And so it's impressive to see what Flare can do. Now we look at it and say, okay, how is this usable? Like, what exactly is going to happen, you know, with the asset, with Flare, with Spark? You know, how does that get involved in the entire you know, transaction, so to speak? You know, as Flare is Ethereum, you know, many people look at Ethereum and it's just another cryptocurrency in the space that people are investing in, but they're not looking at the core technology, how it's going to change and really revolutionize everything, all business, all money. And I was going to put up another thumbnail again. XRP moves money. XRP moves all money. You know, I throw up a thumbnail like that and we get more comments. Why are you guys using all this clickbait to draw, you know, on your titles? Come on. You know, XRP, the XRP ledger will move all money. You know, maybe not every last penny, because the digital yuan in the transaction process is going to be centralized and will use their own centralized technology, as will other CBDCs internally. But once you start getting to the external rails of moving money around the world, it's got to use an efficient solution to move and transact between all these centralized currencies. Otherwise, you know, no one's going to accept it. Over in the US, they're not going to say, yes, we're going to accept the digital yuan in the US. The hell with that. That's not going to happen. You need to maintain your sovereignty. In Europe, the ECB is not going to accept digital yuan as their primary trade currency. Not going to happen. You know, so in Asia, China is trying to, you know, kind of dominate and get regional influence with their digital yuan. Hey, maybe they'll make it happen. From a remittance cross-border payment structure, when you start bringing all of these components together, there's one solution, and that's moving through the XRP ledger at this point in time. It's the most effective. It's not happening yet, but it will be and is the most effective. Now, you go to this next level and you look at some of the solutions that are being built, like Flare. So Flare with their smart contracts and the facilitation of being agnostic, meaning that, you know, just like the XRP ledger, agnostic in terms of currency. That the XRP ledger doesn't care if you're using XRP or if you're using BTC or if you're using Litecoin, or, you know, if you want to push a digital yuan through the XRP ledger, the XRP ledger doesn't care. You know, that it was built to be agnostic. That is, you know, a big component, a big part of all this. But then we get back to again, and we want to look at, you know, smart contracts in real world utility speak, you know, not just about, hey, what's going on with the next great digital asset, but what can really happen from a smart contract perspective. You know, what happens? How is it changed? What is the game changer with smart contracts? Why is it so unique? Why is it so important? And that's what, you know, we want to talk about here. And after we talk about this, then we're going to talk about fiat, the cost, the carbon footprint of fiat, and all the nonsense that's been going on, you know, regarding Elon Musk, you know, getting out of Bitcoin, which is false, all false narrative, all fake news, and people just don't get the point, you know. So we're going to talk about that too. Let me pull this one up. Let's see if I can, how do I, oh, what am I doing? No, I need to add it. What am I thinking? Just got to add it to the screen. Then we can get it. Let's take a break here. That's so good. That is so good. So, hey, by the way, Kraken is, for those accredited investors out there, there's an opportunity to buy into the Kraken exchange that's being circulated right now. perspective was sent to me. Minimum buy-in around $75,000, 75 to 100,000, depending on where you are. Buy-in investment into Kraken pre-IPO. IPO not happening until 2022 sometime, maybe as a direct listing. We'll see. Time will tell. But anyhow, that was brought recently. So what kind of agreements can be turned into hybrid smart contracts? This is probably one of the most poignant articles in the space because they're looking at it from a real world utility perspective. What can digital assets, what can cryptocurrency actually do in the real world other than disrupting cross-border payments and other than disrupting and being a store of value like Bitcoin to stem off the fear of inflation? What else can we do? So we look at the smart contracts. This is really everything, again, from finance to logistics to every aspect of business, trade, can really be impacted by these smart contracts. And I really like, so finally you see these articles popping up and, people giving their opinion. I don't know what this house has to do with it. The home on the beach, it really, I don't know. I don't know why you'd pick that picture for this article, but anyhow, so check this out. And I like this. It could be anything. It's basically verifiable data, right? About market prices. So verifiable data, anything that's going to check prices, even, weather, shipping, so logistics, which includes transport, all these different variables could be important. But what are the limits of data to establish definitive truth? So it's interesting they get into this. So here's Chainlink was talking about, here he said, could you create, I thought this was an interesting one. Could you create a hybrid smart contract to prove someone painted your house the right shade of blue? That's why they use the blue house. I don't know. I would have, that's kind of a silly picture. Yeah, I get the question. I get the idea, but put the picture down below near your question, to give the highlight. But why at the top of the thing? I don't get that part. So, it's interesting too, because how would you check it? Once it's painted and put on, you can't check it. But I think that is a really interesting question because all components of logistics in business can 100% be put onto a smart contract if it's data. So imagine you go into the store, let's say you go to Home Depot, you go onto the computer and you say, I want to, I'm going to hire, I'm working with my painter. I need to buy the paint. Here's the paint code. Here's how it cross-references the paint code. Now the guy's mixing the paint. He can verify when that process is completed. If it's all within the computer network, he verifies the paint. On their side, when he confirms making the paint, it verifies based on its infrared, however they check to see if the paint color matches. It matches. That triggers something back in the computer that verifies that the paint color matches the paint color that was requested. It then gets shipped to the painter. So now there's another verification of shipping. So now this process is moving. So they do their part and everything is triggering. So even now within the smart contract, let's say with a painter, you have to pay them on the receipt of the paint. All of a sudden there's a trigger where it takes money out of your account, automatically transfers it over to the painter. Now the painter shows up at the house, indicates that he's arrived at the house and he started painting. Maybe there's a verification via the cameras to show that the painter's actually there and does a facial recognition and identifies that your painter has arrived, or he somehow notifies. And when he notifies his arrival and he's painting, maybe another percentage is automatically released to him. And then he goes through the process, finalizes the process. He could do his walkthrough and, there's a verification. Hey, the process is now completed. I've inspected it. I hit the button again and it transfers him the rest of the money. And that's it. And there's been no, the smart contract handled the entire process from beginning to end. And that's, I was just using their example of, the blue house. And, is it a hybrid smart contract or is it real world utility of smart contracts? I mean, it's amazing. So you're taking out that whole human element. You're taking out the risk. So a lot of times people are afraid, right? So you bring a painter into your house. I'm thinking that like this is the most like elementary level of how a smart contract can be used in human interaction. So you bring him in, he has to go out and buy paint. So normally you give him money and now you have to prove, he's going to have to, you're handing him a check. But you know what? I don't want to hand the painter money, especially if I don't know the guy, because he might take my money and disappear, or he's going to go buy cheap, inferior paint. And I think this is a great point here. Because if he's now going to go buy cheap, inferior paint, my house isn't going to be painted with the quality of paint that I requested. But now, if within the smart contract, which is connected to ACH, connected to crypto, connected to my credit card, whatever it is, it doesn't matter at that point. But, so now he goes and buys the paint, but there's a cross reference, and money is then automatically, he doesn't even have to collect the money, or it can, whatever, maybe it comes from his account, goes to my account to him, but on verification that he's buying the accurate paint, he gets released funding in order to pay for the paint. And so now he's whole. I'm whole because I'm comfortable that he bought my paint that I picked out. And then he then goes through his process. He takes the paint. Again, he shows up at the house and he starts painting, and then he gets another percentage automatically released through the smart contract because he can identify that he's here. I can approve that he's here. Now, I haven't given him my credit card. I haven't given him cash. I haven't given him a check. I haven't given him anything, but the process is working. And so that to me is like the very, very, basics of a smart contract. Now you take it to another level. And this is where it becomes significant for it to be relatively agnostic. And you want to be able to say, hey, you know what? This big organization is working with Ethereum. Our organization is working with Flare. I want them to work together. Maybe there'll be an ABC smart contract that pops up at some point in the future. And now that one gets tied in also. And that's where Flare is agnostic to where it will be able to work with multiple solutions and pull them all in. Now imagine you're going through a full logistics process in business, and there's so many layers, so many elements that have to be met in the contracts in order for things to progress through a process. So imagine, again, it all comes down to risk and trust. So if you're buying a product from someone and you're paying $100,000, $1 million, $10,000, there's a level of risk when you hand over your money to that person to say, are they going to deliver my product? Now, there's also a level of trust because you have to have earned trust together that now when I hand you that $10,000, that everything is going to progress as expected. But this is many times why, from a trust perspective and risk perspective, people don't want to hand over the whole $100,000 and say, here, I'm giving you $100,000 on my money, because they want to hold something back in case something happens, because that's the level of lack of trust. There's always going to be a little bit of a lack of trust. So with that little bit of a lack of trust in the smart contract process, you can really accomplish and accommodate all of it. Because think about, even in a settlement process, when we're talking about moving money cross border. So you're moving X amount of dollars from Bank of America to Bank of England. You have the parties, whatever, but you have to move that money. Typically, again, there's the Nostra Vostra accounts to do the transaction, but there's always a third-party settlement mechanism or a third-party messaging platform like Swift that is that in between, that is saying party A is good for it. Party B, I'm transacting what party A is. I've verified that they're good for it. I'm making the transaction. Everything's going to go on. It's going to take 5 days. Hopefully there's no errors, but there's always that third party mechanism that is run by humans. There's always a human element, and there's a lot of cost and variability to it. And this whole smart contract, game changing. I mean, you guys get it, right? You guys understand it. But I'm just saying, from this perspective and this is where for Ethereum, my opinion, why it's advancing, one, first mover advantage, two, because of the infrastructure that people realize that all these other digital assets, the ERC20 tokens, are built on this foundation. Now, as we move forward and you get into Flare, what can Flare do with Spark? What can be built off of the XRP ledger for outside of Flare? What are the possibilities out there? And they're, intense. It's really, really unbelievable what could happen. And so that's why we got to look at every aspect of everything. But I thought this article that I pulled up was really poignant. We didn't have to get into the whole thing because it's not, as relevant. The guy, was pretty smart in terms of what he said here, but didn't get into it, from our perspective. So, so that was that. Here's another one. Okay, so let's get into this one. I thought this was, kind of, this one is kind of important. There's two of them. Hang on a second. One and two. Here's the other one. Hang on a second. All right. So this has been driving me crazy for a little while. Hang on a second. Oh, that's good stuff. Brucey Kibbutz. The Kibbutznik over here. Brucey. Kibbutz. I don't know. Anyhow, all right. Could offer small businesses their ability to give a much stronger guarantee. Exactly. So there's a lot there as well. I mean, to me, we're just seeing the beginning stages of it from a business perspective. The smart contract, for sure, 100% is game changing. And this is what we're going to see. We're going to see more and more of that. Right now, I believe there's some, blocks being put in place, to an extent. The SEC is kind of tripping over themselves to also interfere with some of those elements that we're seeing. And we had Warren Davidson on here, and he explained even some of the process that's going through trying to get regulatory clarity in order for things like this to exist in the U.S. And, we're going to reach out to some of the other congressional representatives like Tom Emmer and is it Ted Budd and hopefully Darren Soto and some of the others that are also working in this crypto space. Would love to get their perspective on what's going on, as well. But it all comes back to business. It comes back to movement of money. And that is, and it has to be movement of money, but done transparently, efficiently, low cost, and quickly, and making business more seamless. And so that's very, very, critical. Van Life says, I get it. It's like Tesla being so environmentally friendly. Nobody thinks about the mining for lithium to create the batteries, and they recharge mainly on coal power plants for the entire life of the car. So this is really, really key, right? So I'm glad you brought this up, Van Life, because the next topic that we're going to get into is exactly that. There are two articles back to back. One is the carbon footprint of Fiat. The other is the carbon footprint of Bitcoin. And the misnomer that Bitcoin has this intense carbon footprint and is using new energy, right? So this would have to be the concept that Bitcoin production is using additional energy that needs to be created specifically for Bitcoin that wouldn't have been used in any other way, or energy that's being produced and somehow in a reserve that you can't really reserve it, but energy is being produced. Do they have to burn more coal in order to generate and produce Bitcoin? Or is it just more energy consumption based on what's already being produced? And nobody's talking about, like Van Life said, not one person is bringing up the destructive nature of mining for lithium, what types of in-ground pollutants and devastation is caused by mining lithium. Not one person wants to talk about that, which is really absurd. The other thing, and on one of Chip's videos, we were talking about this, and they said the offset of solar power and wind power offsetting everything else. And that's also BS, because if you look at wind turbines, if you go over to Europe, there's a lot of wind turbines. Not one person, all of these people that are in favor of these alternative energies. I'm not saying one day we're going to have amazing alternative energy and we're going to have, power plants that we're going to be able to pull energy out of osmosis. But the point is that people, if they like their thing, they're going to bash someone else's thing, and they're going to ignore all the bad parts of their thing. So wind power, thousands and thousands and thousands of birds are killed annually due to wind turbines. Now, how do you offset the devastation to the bird population based on the movement of wind turbines? In the US, you have a lot of bald eagles that are being massacred due to the wind turbines. Now, why is there no offset? Why is nobody talking about that? The other part, why is nobody talking about how ugly wind turbines are on the landscape? The devastating nature of your visual acuity when you go out into the wilderness and you go into Europe, parts of Europe, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and the whole landscape is littered by these wind turbines. I'm like, why are there wind turbines on all these hills? I just want to look at hills. I don't want to look at wind turbines. Nobody talks about that part of it. So that is detrimental. So now we have the mass massacre of birds, and we have the eyesore aspect of wind turbines. Plus, they don't generate the type of electricity that's currently needed that is produced by coal or nuclear power. That's just the bottom line of it. So then how do you come out, and why are they coming out and bashing Bitcoin's carbon footprint without bashing all these other footprints? Why is it that, a Tesla is so amazing? Why? Because you're not using gas. You're spending $60,000-$70,000 on a vehicle. Has no one seen the problem with that part of it yet? That you're basically, instead of putting gas in your car, you're using electricity. It might not be yours. You might go to Whole Foods and fill up your electricity for free, so you're feeling good about yourself. Is that what it's all about? Getting a battery run car to feel good about yourself because you think that you're contributing to the pollution if you fill up gas in your tank, but you're not contributing to pollution if you're driving a battery run vehicle that you get your electricity from the grid, which is a coal powered plant. And now if Bitcoin is bad, then aren't the Teslas bad? Aren't they generating and needing to use more electricity and more coal or more nuclear power? I mean, the whole argument is ridiculous. And so now we get into this one and we start looking at, okay, how big is Bitcoin's carbon footprint? It's pretty big. Is it bigger than IT data centers? Maybe, maybe not. But the point is, why are they looking at this? And then I love this too. This is the most absurd direction of mainstream media FUD ever. So what is the focus when we talk about Bitcoin's carbon footprint? Obviously, somebody got to Elon Musk and said, you can't keep promoting Bitcoin. There's a high carbon footprint involved in it. You're supposed to be supporting battery powered cars. Oh, wait a minute. Your battery powered cars also have a large carbon footprint around the world. We forgot about that part of it. Oh, by the way, not only do you not have replaceable batteries, so you're constantly charging on the grid, but your batteries have a degrade over time, meaning that every couple years you're going to have to replace those batteries. Whether you can refurb those batteries, dispose of those batteries, properly recycle the batteries, what happens to the lithium that's in those batteries? What do you do with it? Where does it go? How do you nullify the lithium? If everybody in the world had lithium batteries in their cars, what happens to the bad batteries? Why is nobody talking about that part of it? It makes no sense. But here you have Tesla boss Elon Musk U-turn over accepting Bitcoin. Why was he willing to accept Bitcoin to begin with? Who's going to buy a Tesla with Bitcoin? I mean, there's enough Bitcoin millionaires and billionaires, but Bitcoin is recognized and identified as a store of value, not a transactional currency. Elon Musk knows that. He was doing it for the hype. But the majority of the people realize that Bitcoin isn't a transactional currency. It's too slow. It's too costly. It makes no sense. So did Elon Musk do a U-turn? Yes, he did a U-turn. He said, we're not going to accept Bitcoin at this point. Yes, it makes sense. We don't want to accept Bitcoin. Why? Because it's too expensive. It's too slow. Doesn't make any sense. So the media picks up on it and says, he's not going to accept Bitcoin because of the environmentalists, because it uses too many fossil fuels. No, that's not why he did it. It makes no sense. So then the whole focus is on Bitcoin is bad. But then what does he come out and say? He said, no, I'm not selling Bitcoin. We're just not going to accept Bitcoin as a means of payment. They might accept Dogecoin. Maybe he woke up to the realization that the transaction costs are too high on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin really is a store of value. So, but the media spins it in a completely different way. However, he says the use of coal, which is the worst emission of any fuel. How the hell are you powering the batteries in your vehicles if it's not through coal or nuclear power? I mean, come on. So this whole concept is just messing with people's mind over the whole thing. So now they want to break it down. How is it power hungry? So now who's behind this? Who's really behind the idea that you can't use digital asset, highlighting Bitcoin, because most people look at Bitcoin in the mainstream synonymous with other digital assets, right? So here it says, at current rate, such Bitcoin mining devours about the same energy annually as the Netherlands did in 2019. Who cares? Why is that relevant to me? Why don't we cross connect this with other powers that are on the electric grid? I mean, it just makes no sense. Noah, I've never seen a coal power plant. I work in a power plant. They're nuclear of other fossil fuel. Yeah, there are clean coal power plants out there. I don't know what they look like. I've never been to one, but yeah, most are nuclear powered. We have a couple here. Power plants in Australia are coal and hydro. Hydro to me would be, pretty impressive to see the hydro power plants. The amount of water pushed through is impressive. So, so they look at this, right? And, but I like this because this is the next article we're going to look at real quick. Existing financial system with millions of employees, computers, air-conditioned office see large amounts of usage as well. So they keep looking here. Let's see. All right, we could continue. But Bitcoin production generates between 22 and 22.9 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. So then again, they compare it, produced by Jordan and Sri Lanka. Okay, hey, that's great. But then let's look at the carbon footprint of fiat money. Wouldn't that be a fair comparison? If you're going to look at the footprint of Bitcoin, then we also need to look at the footprint of fiat money. We also need to look at the footprint of data centers. We also need to look at the footprint of cell phones. What is the cell phone infrastructure? And I once looked at it. What is the total cell phone infrastructure? They don't look at the full infrastructure. They don't look at all of the, the employment around the world, the cost of production of phones, the cost of maintaining the lines, the cost of the salespeople. They don't look at that full, complete carbon footprint. Now, in fiat money, again, we have to look at the carbon footprint. So if you want to have a true comparison between one carbon footprint, then you need to look at the other. Then you have a fair comparison. And these two articles were like, very poignant, kind of side by side. So in most cases, you look at, it's not just, Visa. Hey, I'm using my Visa card, but so I like this, fiat money, enormous collateral damage that fiat brings. And this is the truth. I mean, we got to look at the other side of it. Right. So it says here, these secondary effects make fiat money orders of magnitude more energy destructive than Bitcoin. So they're looking at Bitcoin. Okay, the processing of the computer power that is needed to process the Bitcoin transaction. But fiat, look at this, 80,000 bank branches, 470,000 ATMs in the US. Skyscrapers. Look at this. Finance and insurance, 8.4% of the GDP in the US, only slightly behind manufacturing. Millions of people taking the subway, driving to the office, regardless of what's happening now, turning on laptops, call centers, etc. et cetera, et cetera. You know, and they get into this. They really get into this whole idea. Fiat money has caused a recession every 5.6 years in the U.S. since the Federal Reserve's founding. And then you look at the cost, the toll. Look at the human toll. Each recession has brought trillions in wealth destruction. And you kind of go down. Look at this. Mainstream estimates carbon cost of dollar of GDP about 5,000 BTU, or 1.5 kilowatt hours per dollar. Then you have the Federal Reserve estimated $11 trillion destroyed in the 2008 crisis. So as they break it all down, the very crisis that inspired Satoshi, you simply multiply it to, you come out with 16,500 terawatt hour of carbon equivalents destroyed during one recession. So at the point with all of that is that, you know, if you're going to look at the carbon footprint of Bitcoin, you have to look at the other side of the street. You have to look at the carbon footprint of fiat. You know, now that whole discussion with Elon Musk backing out of it, again, had little to do with the cost of the carbon footprint, and more from a business perspective. It made no sense to accept Bitcoin, and even to not accept it. It just messing with your mind, because then Elon Musk came out and said, we're not selling Bitcoin. And then Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy doubles down and bought another $15 million worth of Bitcoin just to say, there you go, Elon Musk, here's another 15 million. You know, but Elon Musk, they're still holding on to their $1.5 billion that they originally invested in Bitcoin. So, just the whole idea. Yeah, just the whole idea is just kind of crazy. So with that, let me see. There was so much more. I can't believe I spent all that time. We're talking about smart contracts. We get into this. So just as a side note at this point, because that's pretty much all it is. Is a side note. But before we get into that side note, here's an important note. I think this one is critical. So, the banks or the media, I should say, a lot of FUD over financial institutions backing out of investing in the digital asset space. And really, look at this. Steve Cohen, he has 0.72. He's saying he's making a big crypto market entrance, according to key sources. Let me get out of this. Oh, come on now. So he has a hedge fund, right? He's a billionaire. Steve Cohen is getting ready to make a sizable entrance into crypto. They manage $22 billion as of April 1. Look, he's taking a holistic approach to the $2 trillion market. He's been sitting back, monitoring it, analyzing it, looking for an entry point. Millennium, a $40 billion fund, has been dabbling in the crypto market through Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust. And even Ray Dalio's Bridgewater has been looking at the market. So you have all these big guys that are looking. Look at this. The firm is poised to get big in crypto. Here we said outside the crypto market, they raised $1.5 billion after suffering losses from its stake in Melt. $1.5 billion. Now you look at Michael Saylor with MicroStrategy. They invested that loss and made $4 billion. So you don't think Steve Cohen is looking? It's like, oh my God, look, we have a stake in Melvin Capital. There was all this shorting going on with GameStop. Boom, got destroyed. $1.5 billion in loss. They're looking at these guys like Elon Musk, and Tesla and MicroStrategy. Like, these guys made billions in a short period of time. You don't think these guys are looking and saying, this makes a lot of sense? They just got to look for their entry point. They don't care if Bitcoin's 50,000 or 10,000, if they believe that the market is still, scaling way up. That's why he's looking for his buy-in point. Just like Michael Saylor, $50,000 Bitcoin, just bought $15 billion worth of it right now. So, and it's going to go beyond Bitcoin. Right now it's got first mover advantage, big recognition. They're going to look at some of the other spaces. What is going to happen with this lawsuit once the lawsuit is over? SEC v. Ripple. Right now, there's probably a little chokehold on the growth of XRP. So if that's the case, there's a chokehold on it. when there's this massive news, is it going to, scale rapidly? Are these big institutions going to pile in to XRP? Are all these exchanges going to relist or unfreeze the XRP listings? But while all that's happening, right, we've got this. So there's this Silvergate Capital. Hang on. Here it is. So we've got Silvergate Capital, which is going to be the exclusive issuer of Facebook DIEM stablecoin. Now, exclusive. Before, Facebook was fleeing over to Switzerland. Now, all of a sudden, they're rethinking it. What happened between the last time they were hauled in front of Congress and this time? What happened to where now they said, hey, you know what? We're willing to set up our stablecoin in the US. After they got bashed over DIEM, now they're willing to scale and come back to the US. And that's what they're going to do. Not only are they going to do that, but they're going to go to Silvergate, a crypto bank, right? The crypto bank will issue the DIEM stablecoin through its Silvergate exchange network and manage the US dollar reserve tied to it. So Silvergate's on the stock exchange. Facebook, obviously on the stock exchange. Form a partnership. No longer Libra, it's DIEM. They form the partnership. Now here, they're explaining what it is, blah, 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 in the article, whatever. But look at this. Not only will Silvergate become the exclusive issuer of DIEM, but it's going to manage the reserve. They're using a third party. Nobody would trust Facebook with managing it. I don't know how people are trusting Tether. Tether, for the first time ever, showed what the holdings are that back up the USDT. And so here, they're using this third party, which is a well-known group, Silvergate, third party trusted group. And so this is what's going to happen. Look what he says, the CEO. We're inspired by DIEM's technology and commitment to building a regulatory compliant payment system that offers a safe and secure way to move money. That's a big statement. Then he says, we're excited to be at a place in the process. We can announce this product with confidence and look forward to continuing our work with DIEM to bring this to market, a stablecoin. They know. The writing's on the wall. They know exactly what's happening in this space. They know it's about to blow up. They know that there's a ton of money being made in those transactions of that DIEM or of stablecoins, USDC, USDT. They look at Binance with their stablecoin. All these stablecoins coming to market. Who's going to manage all of this interconnectivity between all these stablecoins? So, let's see, payment service provider, social impact, all this good stuff, lower cost, more secure, protect consumers, fight financial crime. All the big buzzwords are being thrown in here. Silvergate is a small $7 billion asset bank. It specializes in banking crypto exchanges. And guess what? Institutional trades of crypto. There you go. Silvergate, this is a big relationship. It's a big deal. And we got to keep our eye on it, because of what's happening. Before Facebook was pushed, everybody ignored them. Now look at this. I mean, it's crazy, really crazy. So let's see here. Noah Monty, thanks for the research time you put in to bring us up to speed on what's going on. Man, it's a pleasure. It's really great having all you guys here. Chip, what is up? What is going on? Man, Rand Paul. That was a great exchange between Rand Paul and the other guy. Very true. Van Life, biggest lithium mine in the world is in Nevada, and the largest Panasonic battery factory here too for Tesla. Someone was saying that lithium is recyclable, which I believe it is, but how much of it doesn't, get, off. So, hate everything Facebook stands for. Yeah, I don't go on Facebook anymore. I'm so fed up with it. I held a bunch of stock in Facebook. I dumped all of that. I dumped Facebook. I dumped Twitter. And I was done with it. And that was a hard struggle. Say, okay, we made lots of money with Facebook stock. It was really good for a time, but you got to choose your battles. And I just didn't believe in it. I had no faith in it, and we had to dump it. So, Sir John on fire, an hour in and not planning to stop. Not planning to stop. So anyhow, man, you guys are awesome. So great stream here. 200 people on with us early Saturday morning, afternoon in some places, night in others. People from all over the world. Tomorrow night, we will be back on again with the roundtable. We do have a special guest coming on with us. Mark Phillips is going to be with us. So we're looking forward to the roundtable tomorrow night. There's a lot to talk about, lots of things to analyze, lots of things to dig into. And that's it. I want you guys to have an amazing day, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys back on the next one. I'm out of here. Whoops, wrong one. I'm out. See you guys.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.